How we doing, guys? Back with another video. So today we're going to talk about fluid beds. So I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw someone, one of my guys I follow, jig painting, right? And I could take a look at the jigs and they come out real well. And I just shot him a quick message and said, "Hey man, you familiar with fluid beds by chance?" I had no familiarity with them. So I told him, you know what, I want to put a video out that way you can check out a fluid bed. This is a video I've been working on for a while, or I should say, I've been wanting to do for a while. As you can see over in the corner here, I've got some jigs hanging. Can't really see nothing great clarity. Also some flies, but a bunch of jig heads I painted that need to be turned into jigs. Steelhead jigs, and some. Just I'll leave some of those normal just for walleye purposes actually. However, let me grab one of these fluid beds. So this fluid bed is pretty simple. Just a couple components. All right, and these couple components coupled with an aerator, just like an aquarium aerator. Alright, this one was, I don't know, 10 bucks or something at Walmart. It's nothing. Along with this piece right here, which is important. Doesn't matter where you put this piece, but you have to have something like this. And this allows you to dial in how much air flows through. This is very important because the aerator itself, they're, depending on what size you buy, is going to put out a certain amount of air at a constant speed, okay? And so that might be perfect for 5 of fluid beds hooked up together, but it might be really bad for one because you might just blow all the powder out. You don't want to do that. All right, so in short, this is really easy to make, super cheap. There's no reason to buy these. When I first started looking into these, I went online and I saw them priced anywhere from $30 a crack to $100 for a set, including the aerator, which is a complete joke. I think I spent altogether probably under 20 bucks for all the parts to make 4 of these, including having to buy the PVC glue, which itself was like 4 bucks. and then I probably spent 8-10 bucks on the aerator. So super cheap to make. It only takes a couple components. So let's put one together real quick, and then we can kind of get a better understanding as to how it works from there. Alright, so the first piece you're going to need is one of these. If you work in the home remodeling industry of any facet, you'll know this as a knockout. Okay, I just referred to it as a cap. I wasn't sure what it was called prior to actually being explained what it's called. So this is called a knockout. Now you're going to need 3 main pieces. You're going to need a knockout, you're going to need a coupler, and you can see in here there's a little ridge. That's what makes this a coupler, not just a piece of PVC pipe. And then you're going to need a piece of PVC pipe. Alright, now you can buy 2-foot sections at your home improvement stores, pre-cut, and then you can buy couplers that are the correct sizing, and then knockouts that are correct size. This is less than $1. This piece was the most expensive of everything, and this was a couple dollars, maybe $1.67 or something like that, $2, $2.50. So you can buy a 2-foot section of pipe that's pre-cut for you, and you don't have to do anything with. And then you just cut it down from there, and you can make a few of these out of it. So you're going to need, after the coupler, you're going to need 2 sections of piping. Now the reason you need 2 sections of piping here is because you have to put a piece of pipe on both sides of this coupler, okay? Because if you look at this knockout, which it would be great if it fit, doesn't fit in there. See that gap? You don't want a gap. Alright, so basically we'll take a short end. We only need something long enough to fit inside, and go ahead and touch this coupler ring right here. So it's got a nice firm grasp, or nice firm seal. So you stick that in there just like this. You're gonna then take this knockout, you're gonna plug that bad boy in there like so. Alright, and then you basically have this piece completed, right? You obviously use some glue in between, whether you use silicone or PVC glue or super glue. You need something that's going to make a good seal, because you cannot have air coming in and out. It needs to be airtight. So from there, you're just going to take one more piece, and this piece you want a little longer, about 2.5 inches. Seems to be what I've kind of fell in love with so far. I cut a couple shorter, a couple longer, and about 2.5 inches seems to be the right length for what I'm doing. This pipe is actually, I can't remember if this isn't 2-inch, but this is, I don't know what this is. It's not 2-inch. 2-inch was too big. This is probably 1.5 inches or 1 3/4, something like that. 1.5 inches. Yeah, 1.5 inches. And so the whole difference in the diameter of the tubing and what matters there is how much room you're going to have to stick a jig in. Now, on top of that, you're also going to have to consider how much powder paint you're going to put in here. How much powder paint are you going to need to put in here to fill it all the way around and create a deep enough layer that you can completely dunk your jigs into, right? So that's important. Now, are you tying ounce lead jig heads? Because those are pretty big ball jigs, and if so, then you're going to need a 2-inch. If you're tying saltwater stuff, you're probably going to want a 2-inch. If you're tying, or if you're painting anything really big, bass jigs, you might want a 2-inch. But anything smaller, if you're in that 1/8 range, 1/4 range, 16th, 32nd, whatever, that tiny stuff that's anywhere from panfish to steelhead size range, even 1/2 ounce, then 1.5 inches is going to be plenty for you. It's not so wide that you're going to need to put in 1 ounce worth of powder paint. Alright, so you can be sparing with your powder paint, in addition to allowing you to have just enough room to stick that jig in, get it all the way in, dip it around in that paint, pull it out, so you get a nice even coat, which is important. Alright, so then as you see with this unit here, I've got some paper here. Now there's all kinds of things you can use. Essentially, this makes a barrier, if you can see in here, a barrier from the air chamber below, where the air comes in at, and then pushes it up, and it essentially diffuses it, similar to an aquarium stone. So an aquarium stone, when you throw it in the water, creates bubbles, and you see a bunch of little bubbles. The more little bubbles you have, the better off you are, because the air then has a better chance to diffuse throughout the water, which is important, the oxygen, to oxygenate the water. So we want the same thing to happen. When you plug this up to an aerator, what's going to happen, and you put powder paint in, it's going to make it so it's like fluid. So when we move this around, if there was no air going through it, that powder paint would just kind of like sit there till it hit a tipping point, and then it would fall over, right? Just like if you were to pour sugar out of the sugar bowl, or coffee out of your coffee can into something, kind of sits there until it gets just enough pressure where it all falls out, right? We don't want to do that. What we want, because that means it's compact and it's together, what we want is to loosen it so it's just a little bit apart, all those little particles of powder paint. And when you separate them a little bit by air, what it allows you to do is to get an even coat all the way around, because you don't have to drive any force down with that jig. So what happens when you heat jigs, and you dip them straight into the jig paint jar, yeah, it gets a coat. Yeah, it gets a fairly even coat. But a lot of times what you'll have happen is that first point of contact, that head of the jig, as you dunk it in, it's going to push on that powder paint. Two things are going to happen. One, first, you're going to get a little bit extra paint there, a little bit extra coverage, and then it's going to create a little teardrop shape. You're not going to like that most of the time. Anyone who makes their own lures is probably a perfectionist, kind of wants something done right. It's the reason you're buying it, the reason you're doing it. You like to get closer to your craft. So you don't want to have that happen. Two, you're gonna waste more paint, because every little extra drop you get is powder paint wasted, and the stuff's not cheap. You can buy it cheaper when you buy it in bulk, but it's not cheap. And it goes a long way, but again, not cheap. So every penny counts when you're doing this kind of crafting. And really, when you buy a jug, you know, a 4-ounce jug of it, you really want it to last forever, right? You never really want to have to buy powder paint again. So waste is important. You're wasting less when you use something like this. 2, the finished product is better, all right? So finished product's better, you're wasting less. Okay, need we say more? No, probably not, but we'll go into when you dunk it in and you smash it in and you're not using a fluid bed. Sometimes what will happen is you let it kind of hang out and you're twirling it around, trying to get it coated. Well, you melt a little bit of paint in the bottom of the jar, and as you pull out, it just stays there. And so you have a little bit of glob. And what ends up happening is you made a paint rock. So you got a paint rock in there that's useless. And that's just a further waste of paint. But also, when you do heat the paint back, or a jig back up, and you drop it in there, if you do touch that, you might tag it, and then you come out and you got a big lump on it, which is something that happened with some of my jigs prior to making these. So let me grab a couple of those and show you what I'm talking about. So here's a pretty good example. Now you can see it's around a jig head. This is a 32nd, actually it's a 16th. And if you look, you see an ever so slightly tip to that head. Okay, this is one of the best jigs I made without using a fluid bed. When you start to look at this one, this is a minnow shaped head. You can see that big lump right at the tip at the bottom right there. That's a big lump. This should go flat, should go flush from here, from that top point all the way down. So this whole tip right up here shouldn't be there. And here's a good example too of another jig. Now this is a round jig head, and does it look round? No. Now it starts to look like a minnow jig head. So this is the things that happen when you're powder coating and you don't do it right. It also can happen. These same things can happen when you're curing them in the oven. If it's too hot, if you leave them in too long, that paint will start to melt completely and pool. And when it pools down, it'll get a drip like that. So this is a super easy, super efficient. I mean, this takes no time at all, other than putting these 4 pieces together and gluing them. You have to drill a hole on the side and get an Aquarium air control and just silicone it in. Done. It's super simple. Hook up your aerator and you're good to go. And I'll make a video later demonstrating how to use these and why they make the most sense, and I'll include it in the subscription and the links and everything below. But yeah, so this thing is just, it's dynamite. You can see all different kinds of ways to make these. There's a zillion ways to make these if you look online. This one was super easy for me. Again, it was just, I got a section of PVC pipe that was pre-cut. I then bought a coupler that matches that same size, and then I bought a knockout for that size piping. So 3 pieces. You just cut 2 lengths of regular piping, push them into the coupler, glue a knockout, done. Super simple. Cool. Alright guys, it's good talking to you. Hopefully you're enjoying putting together some good stuff for the season ahead. Should be a good one. Any comments, questions, concerns, leave below. I'd love to hear your successes, your horror stories, and we can kind of start a nice conversation about what makes the most sense use-wise out of these and what maybe doesn't. Alright, take care. Bye.